With just one simple graph, you can bury your entire world in snow, ready to build a procedural winter scene. Hi and welcome to this tutorial on creating snow coverage using PCG in Unreal Engine. To start, I created an empty scene in Unreal Engine and added 2 meshes from Quixel Bridge. First, we add a getLandscapeData node and connect it to a surface sampler. Then, we use a density filter to reduce the number of points, followed by self-pruning to prevent the points from overlapping. Now we need some meshes, so we add a static mesh spawner to the points. Then we import snow and rock assets from Quixel Bridge. Now we add one of the rocks to the scene, and then use a transform point node to introduce variation in scale and rotation. Now we're going to get familiar with a new node that allows us to place points on existing objects in the scene. The World Ray Hit Query node is used in PCG Graphs to cast a ray, a virtual line, from a point in the world toward a direction and detect if it hits any geometry in the scene. After adding the node, we uncheck the Ignore Self-Hits option in the filter settings. The reason for this is: imagine you're casting a ray from a mesh, like a building, to detect what's below or above it. If Ignore Self-Hit is on, the ray will pass through the original object and hit whatever else is in the environment, like the ground or another mesh. Now we add a surface sampler to our node, and as you can see, it begins generating points in the scene. But since we want the points to appear specifically on our static meshes, we need to assign the static mesh spawner to the surface sampler. However, our static mesh currently has no collision, so the node can't generate any points on it. To fix this, we need to change the mesh collision type to block all in the mesh settings. Now we select World Hit Query, and in the advanced menu, we enable Trace Complex. As you can see, the points are now being generated, and by adjusting the values in the surface sampler, we can control their density. Now you can apply snow to your meshes. Keep in mind that here I'm using just one type of snow mesh, but if you use a variety of snow assets, the final result can look much more realistic. If you also want the ground to have these snow chunks, simply add a getActorData node and combine it with the static mesh using a union node. This way, the snow will appear on the ground as well. Also, by applying a simple material to the landscape, you can create a more visually appealing scene. As you can see, the snow has even settled on the mountains, and if the height of our PCG volume was greater, the entire area would be covered in white. As mentioned earlier, by enabling Ignore Self Hits, we can remove snow from the rocks. And in the Landscape Hits section, we can also control whether snow appears on the terrain. We'll go through an example shortly to show just how powerful these options can be. For example, let's say I want to add a different type of snow to the scene, but I don't want it to appear on the rocks. So I enable Ignore Self Hits and then use a Transform Point node to fine-tune the placement and achieve the desired effect. Now, for example, I'm adding a cabin to the scene, and I don't want the second type of snow to appear on it. So I set the landscape hit mode to require. Now, any mesh I add to the scene will have the snow properly settle on it. Just remember, the better and more varied your snow meshes are, the more natural and realistic your scene will look. That was our tutorial for today. If you found this video helpful, please support it by leaving a like and a comment.